Well, welcome. Tonight we're going to talk about a committee that 250 people really appreciate and probably 10 others that watch on TV. It's a group of people that took on an impossible task. How to streamline the town meetings we have. But first, let's start with an intro.
Well, my name is Reno DeLuzio. I'm chairman of the Town Meeting Study and Improvement Committee.
And my name is Mike Bontempo, and I'm the clerk for the committee.
I'm Bart Lawless, I'm the vice chair.
Now, Reno, was it that you were bored because the trail was working too well
No.
to take this on?
No, Al, you know, I've been a town meeting member now for, I would estimate, over 45 years. And I said to myself, the town meeting seems to be in a position where it could reevaluate itself and make some improvements. And before I am too old to take this on, and I thought I was getting there at that time, I said I ought to try to get something going so we could study our town meeting and improve it and make it viable for the next generation. So I was scratching my head and deciding how to do that because I was still involved in the Upper Charles Trail Committee. And in 2014, the citizens of Milford, when they finished their work on the casino effort we had in town, they changed their mission to look for ideas that would improve the community. So that light bulb went off in my head. And I said, well, there's an aggressive group of people. I'll see if I can tap their talent. So I went to their meeting when a few people presented ideas, and I presented two. One of them was to take on an initiative to study and improve the town meeting for the reasons I just mentioned. So a little bit of time went by, and they finally decided to accept that idea. So that was in 2014, and then they formed a what we called the Town Meeting Working Group. It was a citizen-sponsored town meeting working group, and it was made up of one representative from each of the precincts of town meeting, one member of the at large, and that happened to be our town moderator, Mike Nofree, up to three members of the Board of Selectmen, and up to 3 members from the citizens members. So we established this committee, and the committee got organized. Our first chairman was Peter Scandoni. He eventually moved out of town and had to leave. And then the follow-on chairman was Jose Costa, who stood on until the end. So we developed a strategy in how we would tackle this elephant. And so we developed a 5-point program. We briefed the selectmen. To make a long story short, one of the most significant elements of that program was to develop a survey to survey the town meeting members to get their views on what they liked about town meeting, what they didn't like, and also to prepare to present comments.
Now, before you go on, we're taking for granted that we all know what town meeting is.
Yes.
Okay. Mike, why do we have a town meeting?
What? Well, God.
Let's start there. We have a town meeting. Why?
Why do we have a town? That's the way on a town level, that's one of the forms of government, legislative government, that the Commonwealth allows. And the town meeting form goes back. It was imported basically from England, and it was the interesting thing is it's specific to a region of England. I think the East Anglia they call it, that area, and where the Puritans came from. They settled in Massachusetts, and they, that form of government, town meeting as well as selectmen, they brought it over here. So that when you look at the various groups that immigrated, the Englishmen that first immigrated to America. You got the Puritans, you got the people down in Jamestown. Later you get the Quakers coming into Pennsylvania, and then you got the Scotch-Irish coming into Appalachia. The only ones that have this form of government is in New England.
But now, a lot of people move into Milford. They've seen the light, they want a social climb and live at the center of the universe.
Yeah.
And they say, well, what does town meeting do? Don't the selectmen run the town and decide what we spend money on?
Selectmen
No.
are administrative.
What do you mean, no, Bart?
Town meeting decides what we're going to spend the money on. It's up to the selectmen to to present to
Administer.
town meeting,
Yes.
to town meeting, what it is they want to spend money on, and town meeting can say yes or no.
But
And I've
see,
seen them say yes and no.
I am amazed at how many people really don't understand that every penny, $100+ million being spent this year, which still stumps me
I
because
know. Yeah.
when we were
It's
kids,
grown a lot in our lifetime.
$100 million, you would have bought all of Milford. They would have thrown in Hopedale, maybe Mendon.
Right.
But this year's budget's over $100 million, and not one penny can be spent
That's right.
without the members of town meeting approving it.
Well, we have two separate and distinct branches of town government. One is the executive, which is the selectmen, and one is the legislative, which is the town meeting. So, and the legislative controls the purse strings. As Bart said, Finance Committee vets all of the recommendations, and finally a budget gets presented after that process is over, and the town meeting has a say as to whether or not they agree with all of those elements in the
Well, I
budget.
always get a kick out of the Finance Committee, because I've described it when somebody said, "What's the Finance Committee?" I said, "Probably the most influential, powerless people at the meeting." Because when you think about it,
Yep.
you got 15 Finance Committee members that spend all year, and they cast one vote out of 200.
Yeah, right.
So, realistically,
Favorably, unfavorably.
yeah, but realistically, they have 1/240th or whatever it is of a vote. But it's important for people to understand
Yep.
that this is the most, I feel, efficient, clean residential control of the town. Because it would just be crazy to try and have a town meeting where, pure democracy, anybody who wants to show up,
An open town
an
meeting.
open town
We have a
meeting.
representative town meeting,
Right.
yeah.
The representative town meeting feels like the closest thing that's practical.
It is. Given the size of the population of the town, that's why they moved from an open town meeting to a representative back
Well, the
in
other
the
thing
30s.
too is, an open town meeting, I worry, because if you get one article that really is politically or emotionally charged, you could fill the town meeting hall.
Yeah.
And more.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when you go back to some of the town reports, and you look at, say, in the teens and the 20s when they were building some of the newer schools, you would see a turnout of 600-700 people filling that place up,
And too many of them were there for one article.
yeah, and then they would just probably pack up and leave.
But even if they didn't, they showed up for that one article, the
Yeah.
next town meeting.
But then you look through the records, and then you see some town meetings where there's literally a dozen people there.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, that's it. Because they take a vote, and there's, a vote was, 12 in favor
Now,
and opposed.
we have two, on a normal year, we always have two town meetings.
Right.
Yeah.
Our normal town meeting is in the spring, in May.
That's the annual.
That's the annual.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's where we set our budgets and things on that line.
Mhm.
Why do we have a fall town meeting?
Well, that's for our capital expenses mostly, where the budgets are known, finances are pretty well known by the end of the fiscal year. And so we're now getting ready we know the free cash we have
We know the free
available to put toward our capital plan.
Been
So-
certified by the state.
Yeah, and that's appropriate time to now commit the funds we think we need to spend on those.
Now again,
capital
Mike,
items.
use the word free cash. It sounds like Army intelligence. Sounds like an oxymoron. How is cash free?
Don't, I mean, I think Reno would be more.
Well,
I
you
can't
know
answer
that better than I do. You're
Yeah,
asking me
you're
that
asking
question.
me-
No, that's
But a
that's
lot
the-
of people don't
that's the
understand.
It's the residual money that's left. We raise taxes, we collect taxes, we get state revenue, budgets underspend.
It's
I mean,
when we're
departments
done with
underspend.
everything that came in
Right.
and what we had to spend,
Right.
that's what's
You
left.
get something left over. It's not really free.
Yeah, I was gonna
It's
say, I
just
always
the
love
balance
that.
of
It's the
of
balance.
receipts versus expenses.
And
now
it's
we can
hard
use
because
that.
people keep coming in saying, you got $3 million surplus every year, or at least the last 13 years, except the $5 million year.
Yeah.
But, I sit there and say, now wait a minute, we're budgeting to 97, 98% efficiency. And every year, thanks to the department heads in
Yeah.
Milford, we get 2-3% left over. Well, 2-3% of 100 million, we got our 3 million. I don't think I'd want to budget 99 or 100%, because if you have a downturn, I mean,
Yeah.
now in the middle of the year, you got to tell people to cut expenses.
Tighten the belts.
I mean, somebody like Tom O'Laughlin, 94% of his budget is people. You know, school is 80-some%.
So,
Well, I think
So people should understand, when we have the fall meeting, it's because of what you said. The cash, the balance has now been audited and certified. And now we know exactly how much money we have left over.
and the finance committee does recommend some of it goes back to reduce the tax rate. And
Yes,
some of it's used for capital expenses.
yes,
So
we've
there's
taken a lot of
balance.
heat over that we could spend
Yeah,
it.
there's
and
two
it's-
sides of that coin, you know.
Well, there's always a side you can find things to spend it on.
Yeah, we always have a long shopping list, you know
I
that,
think a couple
right?
of years ago, I remember Joe D'Antonio argued against spending it and putting it, you know, saving it more.
Yeah.
'Cause especially when you
Yeah.
have this big nut coming up with the, what is it,
With the
40
EPA,
million?
yeah.
with
Well,
EPA?
the stormwater.
Yeah.
But you know something? We got another big nut coming up. It's called the school in 10 years. Well, there's always a big
Some-
nut.
Yeah.
You know, the high school's going to have to be renovated.
Yes.
You know, 13 years we listened to why you're putting away money in stabilization. We kept saying, there's a school coming.
Mhm.
And when Woodland came,
Yeah, we're ready for it, yep.
I felt really proud that we didn't have to use profanity. Those words like 2.5 override and debt exclusion.
Yeah.
So the fall town meeting is set up so that we can spend known money, not anticipated money. So now we have every single penny of $100 million being discussed.
Good, yes. And the town meeting approved your recommendations this year.
So you looked
So-
at
so-
it, what were the big things that stuck out? You set up a survey.
Well, yeah, let me get into that. So now we have this survey, and the results were quite impressive. I mean, there were 192 respondents out of 200. It was like 77% of the town meeting
Wow.
members responded. I think we had 960 comments. I mean, those two reports are reflected in these documents, which are online. There are two volumes. One is the statistical result of the survey, and the other is all the comments as
The
they
raw
came
data.
in, non-edited comments. So the town meeting working group from the citizens digested all those and set a priority of things to get at of about 20 items or so. And they ranged anywhere from a simple thing like we did this past town meeting to recite the Pledge to the United States, to more complicated things of some of the procedures we're using at town meeting were recommended to be improved. I'll have a list of them here, but essentially one of them was to try to control speaker time, you know, to give everybody a chance to
God
speak.
bless you for that.
Yeah, that seemed to be very popular at the time. And then the other one, and not, you know, we had a big argument about, well, it's unconstitutional. You can't limit speech. And we said, we're not limiting speech. You can get up there and talk for as long as you want, only in smaller increments. And there's always a get-out clause in everything we propose, that if you wanted more time, you just requested for the meeting, and the meeting would grant it, right?
Now, I've got to ask you, politically charged question. Did anybody give you any grief about wanting to say the Pledge of Allegiance to our
Yes.
country? Really?
No, at the meeting,
Sure.
this
You didn't hear the
October, some
comments
people
at the
voted
end?
no.
It was not a unanimous, yes, we want to say the Pledge of Allegiance. There was an undertone, and I sat there saying, where am I? You know, am I in a town meeting, or am I in?
Is this not the town of Milford where we've had 2 demonstrations about our police, and they've both been positive?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, you look and you read the papers about Chicago and Baltimore and all across the country and the unrest. And then you talk to people and say, yeah, we've had 2 demonstrations about our police. One was a rainy day where we all sat out and said, thank you. We really appreciate that you're putting your lives on the line
Yep.
to protect our families.
Mhm. Yeah.
Now, that's just the microcosm. I mean, I joke and say it's the center of the universe,
I know
but
you do.
the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States of America, and people argue we shouldn't?
Of course,
They
now,
didn't
in the
argue.
wording of the motion, it was, if you don't want to, you just sit down and be silent. So you don't have to stand up, you know.
Well, you don't
But,
even,
you know,
you can
there's-
walk out of the hall.
You
if
can walk
want.
out if you're politically offended by it.
Right.
So
There's
it's a free
no-
country, you know, we can do
There's no
that.
requirement that you have to sit
No.
there.
You can move.
Yeah, well, that's.
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I mean, there are certain basics.
Yeah. No, for
that
the most
as-
part, you're right. There
As
was,
much as I want,
yeah.
after spending as
Yeah.
much time as I did in East Bloc in Russia,
Yeah.
the fact that this country gives you, you know, that pesky First Amendment, it
Right.
gives you the right,
Yep.
Right.
Yes, yeah.
Right.
in my opinion, sometimes to be stupid. But you
Yeah.
have the right, as long
Yeah.
as I have the right, in your opinion, to be stupid.
Yeah.
But to not,
I couldn't believe sitting there, because I sit way in the back, so I can get the whole, and I just couldn't hear the undertones, like there's a pledge of allegiance.
Yeah.
Why would you not? You're in the United States of America and you're pledging allegiance to them. Why wouldn't you get up and
you're
say it?
pledging allegiance to a country that gives you the ability and the right to disagree.
Right.
Okay. Some things just, I don't know, I just can't figure that out.
Another predominant comment was, you know, when we looked at this survey, the cup was like half full. I mean, the town meeting basically, for the most part, was running pretty well. People had some grievances about it, and they were vetted in the survey. But one of them, predominant comment was that it's the last place where the common citizen, everyday citizen, can, first of all, it's the 1 or 2 times a year where all the important issues come together in one place at the town meeting. People don't attend the regular finance
No.
committees or the planning board hearings and all that. But the summary of all those issues focuses now 2 times a year. So now the public has a chance to look at what the most important things are on the table, and it's a place where the democratic process is exercised twice a year. And that was a common comment. It's the last place where everybody can get up and
And
speak his
any
mind.
resident of Milford has the right to ask to speak.
Yes.
Yeah. A registered voter can, even a non-resident, if you ask permission for the meeting.
And nobody objects.
Nobody
But
objects,
if
you
I
can
am a
speak.
Milford resident,
Yeah.
if I pay taxes in this town,
Yeah.
I have the right to say, you know, Mr. Speaker, I would like to speak.
Yes.
Well, I think you have to be
Well,
a
no,
registered voter.
You have to be a registered voter?
Yeah. But
Oh.
if you're not, you can ask
Use
permission.
Permission.
Okay.
So it's, yeah, you're right in that any citizen, any taxpayer in the town of Milford, whether
Can
registered or
ask,
not,
but-
can ask.
Right.
But if you're a registered voter, you automatically can speak.
Granted, the,
I mean, you can't vote, but you can speak.
Right.
Only the
And,
elected
and
members can
you,
vote.
you cannot make a motion either. Like
That's true,
with,
right.
with Chuck Renaud the other night.
No, you have to have a town meeting member.
You have
do
town
that.
meeting member do
present,
that.
present the motion.
Yeah. So that was a very impressive response we got. That people really want to, you know, it seemed that they want to preserve the town meeting. They don't want to give up on it. You know, there are other towns that are struggling with the same thing we are. I saw a newspaper article maybe a year ago or less where Millis and Holliston and Hopkinton and Ashland, a few other communities around the area, formed a consortium to look at their town meeting issues. How do they get people more involved? And, you know, I think, looking at it, I think we're pretty much ahead of the game now because at least we got our arms around what the issues are. Now we know what issues to tackle. So this is a common problem. Amherst just gave up their town
Right.
meeting form of government.
but what do you go to?
So a city,
A mayor?
yeah,
Well,
city,
or you go to a city council, like
city council,
Franklin has.
like Franklin has.
And, from what I've read, that's not a solution, really. 'Cause
Do you really gain, I mean.
You don't gain anything.
You think about it, the selectmen control, what, about 35% of the town budget? The
Yeah.
school committee controls
half.
62%.
More than half, yeah.
And then you've got, you know, highway, you've got some other elected officials that
Mhm.
have a few
Mhm.
percent.
Yeah.
But you sit there and say, okay, if I have a city council, does that mean they control 100%?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it's
you would-
just
and you would
6 or
vote
8 or
for it.
9 members
Right.
voting on the whole.
On the whole, I
Yeah.
mean, you got 6 or 9 members that
Yeah.
control everything.
Right.
I think they control zoning too.
Oh, God. See, I've been really, well, the other night, I try not to get up too often, but I kind of lost it when, you know, well, if people come and ask for millions of dollars, town meeting is just going to approve it. It's like,
Mhm.
seriously? What town meeting have I been to that the 200 people haven't really thought about, because it's coming right out of their pocket.
Mhm.
Yeah.
You know, if I'm going to trust anybody's judgment, I feel a lot more comfortable trusting the 200 members, or whatever it is, 240, whatever it is, 240.
Well, it's 240 plus the members at large. There's
So, okay,
16,
so 250, 250
256,
some.
something like that. There's like 16, 17.
But if I look at the
large.
track record, they haven't been wrong too often.
The town meeting.
Town meeting itself.
No, I mean, you know, another function of the town meeting is to make sure nobody goes off the rails. You know, that some department doesn't go crazy, and so the town meeting is a way of, you know, reining it back in. I mean, the finance committee does a great job to make sure that doesn't happen as well, but there's always a possibility.
But you can't influence. You know, when you look at the selectmen, you want to believe they'll be totally independent no matter what. But they're humans who live in our town. You know, you can see influence happening on 7 school committee members, maybe. 3 selectmen, maybe. 256 town meeting members.
Well, there were some that said, you know, that think the town employees shouldn't be town meeting members. Well, that's against state statute, so you can't do that. You can't, because they got self-interest. But that's baseball. I mean, they're residents, they're taxpayers.
But you know, we had that come up the other night at the FinCom where somebody had challenged 3 or 4 of us saying, can we talk about or vote on the school budget? Because we have family members employed by the school. This happened when my daughter was first employed at the school system. I called the ethics committee and reported myself.
Mm-hmm. Good.
I said, you know, the easiest way is to call them and say, look, do I have a problem?
Right.
Yeah.
You know, and what they told me was that, no, you cannot vote on line items. Like, I can't vote on staffing, or, because that affects my daughter.
Correct, yeah.
But what they said to me was, if we had to forbid everybody that got personal benefit, like from the fire department, from the police department, which resident of Milford doesn't benefit from the police department?
Yeah, that's true.
So you can vote on the omnibus. You know, because to say I'm voting on the budget if I can't vote on 62% of it is silly.
Yes, yeah, that's right.
You know, but like you say, the town employees, I think it's a benefit because they feel it, they know it, and they know it comes right out of their pocket.
Yeah. Well, it's against the law.
Well, but even if it wasn't.
Yeah, I know, yes. But
Yeah.
the legislature, you know,
Figured that.
figured that out.
So the biggest emotional issue that I remember was people getting up and talking for 15 minutes.
50 minutes?
50.
Oh, 50, yeah.
You know, somebody get up on an article and they would talk for 40 minutes,
Right.
50 minutes.
Right.
I mean, at that point, I think you lose votes.
Oh, absolutely.
I think you lose.
I don't
votes
think one of
after
those.
10 minutes.
Well, that's if you. I mean, Mike, if you can't make your point in 10 or 15 minutes,
Yeah.
You haven't got your act together.
Yeah. So now,
Okay, so now.
what did you change it to, or what did you propose?
No, so now what? What's specific?
The amount of time people can spend talking on an article.
Well, the presenter can say 10 minutes, and then it's 5 minutes to debate, and you could do as many as 3. So, you know, it's courtesy is to do your 5, let somebody else get up. Nobody gets up, you can get in and say another 5, but you can't do more than 3. And then if you feel you have even more information, and there's, you know, they haven't moved the question, you can ask for extended time. Even the presenter can. Because some projects, for example, we do a school, you got the architects and consultants and so forth. At the start, they could say, we'll need more than 10 minutes. And the town meeting could grant them the extra time, another 10 minutes, and it goes in 10-minute increments. So there's a lot of wiggle room in that rule. It's not solid, but at least it prevents someone from going on and on and on without a stop
A
watch
filibuster.
coming on and saying, okay, that's enough. Now you got to sit down and
Oh,
let somebody else.
filibuster. And it also tells them if they see the rule that, hey, I have to tailor my presentation to
You have to crystallize it a bit.
Yeah.
this amount of time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then one other comment was that the town meetings run too late. So we had a town meeting, proposed a rule to town meeting that we would start a half hour earlier. And then the way the system was is that someone had to realize that was getting on in the evening and stand up with courage and raise their hand that I have had enough, I want to go home and make a motion. So that was like, that wasn't a positive action. So
And
what
become
we-
the most hated person on town meeting floor?
Well, yes, at some time,
Well,
some cases that's true.
Well, Mike, yeah,
Well, I mean, you see, when we were talking about this, the town meeting working group, and even after, I was, against both of these, because I would rather see the members get more involved and decide on their own, okay, I think this article is gonna be maybe, a long one. There may be a lot of people speaking, so let's get up and make a motion to limit a speaker's time to 5 minutes. Or as it's getting later on in the evening, get up and make a motion to adjourn. Now, if the members don't want to adjourn, then we
Well,
don't
that was
adjourn.
this- that was this town meeting, Monday night. It
Right,
was
you-
2
you-
minutes to 10.
Right, and Mike asked you,
Well,
want
that's
to
our new
stop?
rule now,
Right.
not what he's talking about.
But all I'm saying is, in before this rule, anytime a member could get up and make a motion to adjourn to another evening. And to me, to get people more involved with what's actually happening on the floor, rather than just sitting there and saying, oh my God, looking at their watch all the time, well,
Yeah, but didn't we have a problem? I mean, I remember years ago when Mike's counting and we're 4 short and we're all on our
Yeah,
phones
right, yeah.
trying to call somebody saying, would you get down here? And that was for the first meeting.
Mhm.
I always worried, can you count on a quorum if you only have is 8 or 9 articles that are kind of housekeeping at the end? Will you get people to show up?
Yeah, well, that's the dilemma, because if you look at, that depends too on how the selectmen structure the warrant. They have full control over
That's a
that.
mystery.
No, well, yeah, but that's,
Well,
that's
no.
it was in their prerogative to
well,
do that.
it's quote unquote up to the selectmen, but really the person who designs
The barrister,
is the town council.
yeah.
He's doing all the heavy lifting.
Right, yeah, and
know.
they usually try not to put controversial articles toward the end, but you never know.
Yeah.
I can remember us talking on town meeting for over an hour on whether or not we should allow chicken coops in the neighborhood, right? So it's very hard to, or you start having an article about something with dogs, and that could go on forever.
Well, I
Or
remember-
trash pickup.
I
you
remember
know,
the
those-
chicken one, because everybody was,
Yeah.
Mike was saying, okay, we gotta get control. I said, Mike, watch me. Chickens!
Yeah.
And everybody
Right,
looked.
you remember that one. So you never know. But the issue is not, now it's not left to the courage of someone staying up, I wanna go home. It's now a proactive thing, where at 10 o'clock, the moderator says, I'm for motion to continue. If he hears a motion to continue and the town meeting approves it, we continue. If he doesn't, well, this is what some other town meetings do, in Amherst in particular. I don't know if Mike is gonna do this. If there's no motion to continue, it's prearranged where the selectmen will get up and adjourn to the Wednesday night.
To the
So,
one,
yeah, so it's just like a programmed event now that people don't have to wonder, I really don't want to get up and upset my,
Well, and again, if you had
but if I gotta get up
substantial,
4 o'clock in the morning,
Yeah.
right?
but if you had substantial articles, I can see adjourning.
Right.
But when you've got the 3 or 4 housekeeping articles at
Right,
the
no,
end,
I agree, I
Yeah.
agree.
I mean, those are gonna be 2-minute discussions of.
Yep.
And I always get a kick out of people who watch the town meeting for the first time, and they say, seriously, you're voting on $32?
Yes.
Because remember, we used to do those as separate articles, like
yeah, right.
15 separate articles.
The transfer of
The
funds.
transfer
Yeah,
of
right,
some money,
transfer
yeah.
of
But
funds, yeah.
people don't understand that if we allocated $31.528 million and they only spent 32.57, there's $100 left.
Someone's gotta go someplace.
Gotta do
Yeah.
something to-
Only the town meeting giveth, and only the town meeting can take it back.
Yeah, right, that's right, yeah. And so, that was another way of streamlining the town meeting. I think there was something else, but it doesn't come to mind right now. Anyway, so those are the kinds of things, but there's a whole list of other, so now, when we finish, let's get through the story. So the town meeting working group did its job, got the survey, got the results, and then initially they were gonna continue to start working on the results. But they felt it was appropriate for the next phase to be taken on by a town meeting created committee. And that's how the town meeting study and improvement committee got created. In October of 2017, the working group presented an article at the town meeting to transfer this obligation to a town meeting committee. And that committee was established, 9 members, 1 from each of the 8 precincts, but 1 from the body to create an odd number. And then the committee is also structured, so you have to provide an application, okay? So the appointments are made by the town moderator. So the town moderator gets all these applications and he sorts them through, and in his best judgment, he does this selection. But now I think we had 25 applicants. We needed,
Oh, great.
well, that's 10%. If you think that's great, I thought it was going to be more like 20. But in any event, we had 25. He selected 9. That left a balance applications on file. But the committee structure in the article that created it allowed those members or any town meeting member to serve as participating applicants. In other words, they could serve on subcommittees that would be chaired by one of the committee members to work on these almost 24 issues that we were wrestling with. So the committee, if you weren't appointed on the committee and you really felt that town meeting was important and you wanted to contribute, your voice can be heard. And the participating applicants get all the privileges of the voting members on the committee, except they can't vote. So when we hold our committee, the committee deliberates, and then we go to participating applicants that we have now about 4 that participate on a regular basis. We go at them, ask for their comments, and then we take that into consideration, and the committee takes a vote on the particular issue that's on the agenda. So it's been working out pretty well. We've had a little bit of turnover, and the back bench is now getting thin. So I want to take this opportunity that everybody out there listening that wants to participate in this initiative, all they have to do is go online, get an application.
Do they use the talent bank application, or is it a special one?
No, it's one we generated for this purpose,
Okay.
yeah. And it describes briefly what the committee is about. And what's good about the problem people have today, I think it's hard for them to commit to regular meeting schedules. So these subcommittees are very flexible. The group gets together and decide what's convenient for them, how often. So there's no rigorous commitment to the subcommittee. You should participate, but then the results of the subcommittees are reported to the committee, and then we decide the action we're
Now,
gonna take.
a lot of people in Milford aren't as computer fluent. So when you say go online, if somebody doesn't have a grandchild who'll do it for them,
Yep.
if they don't feel comfortable, they can call the selectman's office, right? The 634-2303 and say, help me find this app.
Yeah, they could. We got that. We covered all bases. One of our ground rules is no town meeting. When we communicate with town meeting members, like committee communicate, no town meeting member is going to be left out of that communication. Obviously, the best and most efficient is email. The next is if you don't have email, but you have access to the computer.
But what do you do for the guy who now does the flip phone and says, how do I get email?
No, then obviously in our information we have a phone number. You go,
Okay.
you can find out what our phone number is. You can email the Town Meeting Study and Improvement Committee to the Town Hall, and it'll get to our committee. So this committee also has a subcommittee that's working on email outreach. Because when we started, we had about 60 members of the 240 that did not register their email to the town clerk. And the town clerk keeps the master list. So my committee is helping the town clerk close that gap. We're now down to about 30. Now, there are various reasons why people don't want to submit the email. They just don't want to, for one reason. The thing is, they don't use it. They don't have it, they don't use it. So we're still now working on that 30. And what we sent out a questionnaire with, do you use it? Do you want to submit, yes or no? Do you want to submit your email, yes or no? Do you have access to the web site, the computer for the website, because information can flow that way, yes or no? And then we got a bunch of no responses, one way or another. So we really don't know where those people stand. So we got this continuing effort to try to close that gap, to get it as close as possible. Because one of the objectives we have is to communicate more frequently with the town meeting members. They get communication twice a year. And if they don't keep up with what's going on, they don't really get a handle on some of the important issues that are developing. Now, this committee is looking at all that stuff, especially in advance of the upcoming town meeting.
Well, we've taken
giving them
some
more background
steps,
information.
even on the FinCom. We got shamed into it by Bill Buckley, where he came to one of our meetings and said, years ago, it was the FinCom's obligation or responsibility to comment on every warrant article so that people knew. And that was legit, because when I was a first town meeting member, the night of town meeting was sometimes, or the week before was sometimes the first time I saw anything about the articles.
Yeah.
You know, and sometimes I got it on my seat.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, you know, it seemed like legitimate. Now we've made a commitment that as best we can, and we're not perfect, but all but 1 or 2 articles this year that came before the Capital Subcommittee got posted a month before town meeting. You know, some of the stuff, somebody said, did you really post 160 pages of support material for the fire department article? I said, you bet ya. That was $1.1 million. That's a serious amount of money, and I'm not gonna be the one that decides. You know, oh, Mr. Bontempo, what you need to see is just this part of the, no, I'm gonna put it all there. Everything that's presented to the Capital Subcommittee, my mind, should be available not only to town meeting members, but to residents. You know, we're voting to spend $1.1 million on a TUI toy. They should know why.
And how did you get that out?
We post it,
In,
the website.
yeah,
The
but
thing
people don't use computer.
Well, there's the problem.
Yeah, right.
That's why I'm
Yeah,
asking you,
yeah.
because I don't
Yeah,
have
we
an easy
recognize
way
that problem, too.
of sending 20 articles, you know, and maybe 40, 50 pages on some of them, you know, out.
Yeah.
Because to me, I want it for residents too. Now, they can get it at the library. So somebody
Yeah.
who doesn't have a computer, Miss Sue has said that she'll always help. You know, if you get somebody that's a little older
Yeah.
and not used to it, they can go to the library and say, could you help me find on the website, the town website,
Yeah.
the following
Sure,
articles.
Yeah.
But I don't know of a better way.
No, well, you know, you gotta have someone bite the bullet and do it by US mail to those town meeting members. Like, I think there's about 30 of them now that we can't communicate with electronically. So they, and for those who also don't want to register their email, but there is the US mail. So, but we try to keep the US mail down too, because that's labor intensive and it costs.
And it costs a lot of
so-
money.
Yeah, well, that's one of our.
Can you
committee's general
imagine if
expense.
I had to send out, I think one of the town meetings, in aggregate, the repository had about 280 pages of background? If I had to do that
Oh, no,
times
but-
250
no,
people,
No, you couldn't do that. No,
you talk about a budget buster.
yeah. No, but you could send them a note to say this document is available at town hall.
We do that to every town meeting member, we mail it. The finance committee
Oh, yeah, I know.
report,
That's twice a year.
twice a year.
Yeah,
And that's when everything comes together, and it will tell you that, hey, every article, anything that was presented to the capital subcommittee is open to you as a resident, but I don't have any way of getting to the residents except putting it on the town website
yeah, or a newspaper or something.
or a newspaper.
Yeah. So there are ways to get around it, but it's cumbersome, and it's.
Okay, so keep
Thank you.
going.
Okay, so now, this committee is basically an advisory committee, like the finance committee. You have no power, all the responsibility, no power.
That
So,
would be us.
yeah.
That's what I said.
So-
The most influential, powerless group of people in that room.
So we're in the same boat. I mean, people think we're trying to, grab power and do that. No, we're just advising. We advise the town meeting members for improvement in their procedures. And we have already and continue to advise all the boards, committees, and commissions to improve the form and content and the timeliness of information they have relative to the articles. Planning board is one of them.
My hat
Yes,
is
Finance
off to
committee
you guys
is going to
because
be on the list.
if Bart gets grief about wanting to say pledge allegiance to the United States,
Yeah.
I can't imagine any of the other, Robert's Rules of Order. We all assume the town meeting is run, like every other meeting, by Robert's Rules of Order.
Not necessarily, because I remember early on, actually, Mike Milford used to do a new member orientation,
Yep.
way back. And I remember I'm pretty sure he said, we don't run by Robert's Rules of Order.
He didn't hide it, Bart.
And-
When I asked him, he point blank told me,
Right, he's right out in front of it. But plus, how many people read Robert's Rules of Order?
I started carrying it because I wasn't, when I first became a member of the board at Maryland Yacht Club, I bought a book to make sure that everything was clean
Yeah.
but then you get to the town meeting, like, Mike, it ain't the same here.
No.
And he said, it won't be.
Now, in Mike Bon Tempo, we have a parliamentary historian. Lucky to have a parliamentary historian. He's done a phenomenal amount of work on this issue of, we were developing a handbook, but the handbook has to be rooted in something. It can't be an arbitrary, capricious set of rules. So Mike has researched this issue as what should be the root? And Mike, why don't you tell him some of that statistical work you've done on town meeting times and communities there?
First, Mike, what is town meeting times?
First of all, contrary to what was said on town meeting floor, town meeting time is a manual of parliamentary law. Flat out. if you turn to the sections that have the subsidiary motions, the incidental motions, the privileged motions, the different types of motions, they have what's called the basic talking points. Every manual has these, and it says, if the motion is amendable, if it's debatable, what kind of vote it needs to pass, and whether you can reconsider it.
And who can make the motion to reconsider?
Well, I mean, in our case, it's always going to be a member. And in all those categories, it's
But
always.
don't you have to be a member that voted in the winning side?
Well, that's the thing. They according to the regular manuals, they say you have to be, the winning side. But in town meeting time, they say, the best bet in a moderator. If he's brave enough, he can ask the person. And if the person lies to you, I mean, what are you going to do?
Yeah.
So the position of town meeting time is, if somebody makes the motion to reconsider, just go ahead and reconsider it, no matter which party made it.
And we've been using town meeting times as our basis for.
Again, I don't know. I wouldn't say forever, because when you look at back in the 50s and 60s, you had John Curran, who was the moderator, and he printed out a newspaper article. An article that was put in a newspaper on how town meeting was run. And if you read through it, you can see that the town meeting wasn't using town meeting. Well,
times.
first of all, town meeting time came out in like 1960, 62. The article was originally printed in the mid-50s, then it was reprinted in the mid-60s. But even then, they weren't using.
Boy, town meeting
time.
times came out in the 60s?
It was printed in 1960 or 62, reprinted in 1984, and then reprinted again. The new edition is in 2001. And in their introductory, they call them introductory reports, the authors, the new authors, because the original three are probably dead by now. But they say that the new authors, and again, the other thing is it's put out by the Massachusetts Moderators Association. So these are people who moderate.
You have to
town.
live with.
They know it. They know town meeting inside and out. And they say that they update the editions because of changes to Massachusetts laws. If there's something that changes that will have a direct impact on town meeting, they'll go back and review it and make changes. And the one they did in the 80s was based upon the 2.5 override and all that thing.
Profanity.
Okay, and then they also change it based upon changes in case law. There's a case law that involves decisions that are made by a town meeting that run afoul, based upon parliamentary rules, that runs afoul of state law.
You got to change it.
Yeah.
So they keep up.
So they keep up. So the thing is, you can't say that about Robert's rules.
No,
No, it doesn't keep up.
There's, as I was saying to Reno the other day, there's no appendix in the back of Robert's rules that says, how to apply Robert's rules to Massachusetts town meetings. Doesn't exist. So.
I think a lot of people made the assumption that town meeting times was something we used when Paul Revere was our moderator.
No.
That's why I brought out the point. Wait a minute, this was done in the 60s and as close as 20, 30 years ago, updated.
Right,
Yeah.
and it was done, I think they did it because of the problems they were running into with using, the standard manuals of parliamentary law, trying to put it onto a town meeting. It doesn't work. I mean, there are various things in Robert's rules, for example, reconsideration. Now, Robert's rules, I mean, besides that.
But that would work if you were tracking. I mean, if
No,
I want to be literal.
No, just even put aside the thing on tracking. Robert's rules states that you can only make a reconsideration once. Once, if it's defeated, that's it. You can't make any more.
If the reconsideration is defeated, you're done.
You're done. Now, Massachusetts law says, you can reconsider it as often as you like, and if the meeting dissolves, you can always come back in a new town meeting with a new article to reconsider the previous action. So there are a number of things that Robert's Rules just doesn't fit with town
I could
meeting.
see, you think about way back when we had 3 or 4 Milford families with single island gas stations.
Mhm.
And we said, hey, if we let this newfangled self-serve come into town, we can talk safety, we can talk all that noise, but we're going to put 4 Milford families out of business. Back then, I probably would have supported it because it's Milford families.
Mhm.
Mhm.
Now, the motion is there. It's still alive that says mini, I guess we call it full service, but
Full service, yeah.
the day of the
Well, they
Texaco
don't-
guy coming out
yeah.
washing my windshield,
Yeah,
is
I
the
think-
mini
Change
service.
Look at the oil,
don't
check
call
your
it-
oil.
they call it full attendant now.
You're full of 10, yeah, right.
I was going to say, because when they said full service, I'm thinking of the guy from Texaco.
No.
Check my oil,
Yeah.
why,
I didn't know
gonna
you were
get
that
that.
old.
Oh, God.
Right. No, they
Look
said,
at that.
the guy, they said that at the pre-town meeting forum, they said, they call it a full attendant. And you would have to ask them to do those things.
But
before
wasn't the article essentially a reconsideration of the article from way back when that banned?
Yeah, and yeah,
Loosely speaking,
you could say that, yeah, even though it happened so many years later.
But
Yeah.
we, as a town, decided mini service or full
Yeah.
attendant or dog cat, whatever you
Yeah.
call it, only.
Right.
And here we are 20 years later where we turn around and say realistically,
Mm.
there are no single island gas stations in Milford anymore.
Right.
And they're safer because of all the safeguards built in than
Then
the mini-serve ones.
right.
So to me, that's a reconsideration.
It is.
Yeah, I got to, before we run out of time, I want to make sure we understand what else
Cool.
the committee is doing. Okay, let's see, some other accomplishments. We had our first pre-town meeting forum this past October.
Yeah, they referred to it about 6 times.
At the town meeting, yeah.
No,
I would think it was,
very good.
for the first one, was successful. We had a lot of good questions. I think people who were there, got more informed about the issues.
Now, why did you do a pre-town meeting?
Because it's in the charter for the committee to do that.
No, but
Oh, why?
why?
Oh, because at town meeting, it's not a question and answers forum. So, in fact, that was another frustration in some of the comments, that town meeting members ask questions and they get a blank, no response whatsoever, not even from the applicant to say, I'm sorry, I don't have that answer, I'll get back
But
to
they
you
don't
later.
have to.
No,
They
that's the point.
throw up a question,
Right,
but
Yes,
you're
answer.
not under any obligation that
No.
I know of
no.
to answer my question.
No, but it seems like a courtesy. If you don't have the answer, just get up and say, sorry, I don't have the answer.
Yeah.
But just to sit there. So anyway, to get around that problem, the only way you can have a question and answer, informal kind of exchange, is to have a pre-town meeting forum with articles that groups, it turns out we asked every town meeting member to submit
Yeah,
their
you're not
articles.
gonna discuss the housekeeping articles.
No. But, so we ask all the town meeting members to
Hope not.
present.
Well, no, but I mean, you
Never
got 40 or 30 some
Oh, no, you
articles.
couldn't
10
do
of them are just
We-
Right.
taking the popcorn or
Yeah.
the potato chip money.
Yeah.
You know, come on. I mean, we have to do that because town meeting has to give the money, but
Well, then the selectmen
Yeah.
taking charge of legal
right.
matters for the town.
Yeah, if you don't,
Right.
nothing happens.
It's allowing the treasurer to borrow money, all that.
Yeah, that's what I call house.
Yeah.
Jerry used to get mad at me. There were reoccurring annual motions.
But the importance of them, excuse me, Reno,
No, go ahead,
is,
yeah.
is that town meeting is granting the authority to those people to do their principal job. Now, imagine if town meeting decided, I mean, we could, if you know, especially back when the treasurer was elected, you know, a lot of these positions were elected, and if, you know, they ran
If we
foul
didn't,
of
if we
some,
didn't give them the authority to borrow,
well, they couldn't fulfill their duty.
right?
We're telling them, you know, we don't.
We don't like you. We're not going to let you borrow money, so you can't make payroll until taxes come in.
That won't work.
No, but I'm thinking, I mean,
Oh,
it's town meeting sending a message to the administrative part of
No,
the
I like the
government
idea of
saying,
the pre-town meeting to give people the flexibility to have open discussions.
Yeah, right.
That was the whole point.
I mean, that's why I was looking, you do a pre-town meeting, not to undermine the town meeting,
No.
but to let people have open discussions.
And there's two sides to that coin, because with those questions and answers, the presenters have an opportunity to fine-tune their presentation in anticipation of
Right.
these questions,
Right.
so they don't get asked again. Now, I didn't see much of that happening between the pre and the post, but it's got that feature that if I'm there and I present something and I got a big hole in it, and someone
Yeah.
points that out, I've got a chance to
I got a few days to go
fix
clean
that,
it up.
clean up my present, a better graphical handout or overhead or something like that.
I want to
you
make sure my graphics work. We had that one time at town
Right,
meeting
yeah.
where the projector wouldn't work.
Yeah.
The poor guy was like, da, 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 da.
So now this is, now, we weren't, at least we were proactive in getting it by email for the 220 or so. We had the addresses to ask for their preferences. So some information was collected there. Our committee judged how many we thought had controversial issues. And there were how many, 6 or 7 or 8?
Yeah, at least
Maybe
that.
10? Maybe 10.
Well, some of the hot issues people referred saying, well.
Yeah, but what's hot for you may not be hot for him.
Well,
you know,
no,
yeah,
but I'm
that-
just saying,
yeah.
some of the ones that had 2, 3, 4 people talking,
Right.
Yeah,
they got up and said, well, at the pre-town meeting, we were told.
yeah, right.
Which I found great, because that means somebody had the opportunity
Yeah.
to go back and forth a couple times, where,
Yeah.
let's face it, town meeting, you may not have that opportunity. You throw up the ball
No,
saying,
it's
I'd
not.
like to know.
In fact, Mike instructs Tommy, this is not a question and answer
Right.
forum.
I can't ask Reno, what do you mean?
No.
You want this for the trail?
Yeah.
No, sorry, no.
So anyway, I think that was good, and by our charter here, we have to do that for every town meeting, so there'll be another one scheduled and organized for the annual. So that was a very positive thing, and let's see, oh yeah, and we're working on educational videos. You know,
Cool.
some people are good with seeing a snippet, a 2 minutes something on a particular issue at the town meeting. In fact, Mike Nofri was going to give Mike Bontempo an award for the person who's researched more town meeting videos than anybody he knew, because of the results he pulled out of all that. But you can, in fact, you know, today's technology, we can do a lot. I mean, there's no, for example, the finance committee, if people are not keeping up, although you do broadcast and your stuff is on there, but if they don't keep up with what you're doing, you have a long meeting and a snippet of it is relative to something the town meeting will have to address. You could, if you had somebody to do it, you could go snip out that and then
Well,
put that in
I mean,
a
you
file.
can come down here to the new studio. I mean, Rob has done such an incredible job. When we were at the back of the Comcast studio,
Yeah,
it was hard to get high school kids to want to volunteer with the equipment that Paul Revere installed.
yeah.
I mean, you know, they don't deal with flip phones and analog. Now all of a sudden you're looking here and you've got state-of-the-art equipment. The control room in here is unbelievable.
good.
So you could take any part of a town meeting, cut 30 seconds out, come down here, cut 30 seconds out, do an intro,
Yeah.
and put it up.
Sure.
Yeah.
You do something with the selectmen's meeting too, yeah. And the planning board.
The one thing I would love to see on pre-town meeting is that you don't do it 2 or 3 days ahead. You do it a week,
Yeah, well,
because then it would give you time.
Yeah.
I know
Yeah.
you can't win,
Right.
but if you could give a week, then you'd have time to come down here
Yeah,
and say, here are the 4 snippets that we think as a improvement committee
yeah.
are going to be the hottest ones.
Yeah, here's some background. We're restrained to this calendar that develops the warrant, tick, 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 tick.
Oh, please.
And there's not much time between when the warrant gets out and when the last tick is that we can schedule the pre-town meeting. There isn't really much of a gap there.
Rena, look who you're talking
Yeah,
to.
I know, you're up against the 11th hour too, I'm
The
sure.
capital committee is always sweating that.
Right, I know it. Okay, and then we have another subcommittee, now don't get off your seat now, looking at electronic voting. Just
Cool.
exploring the electronic voting. I think this time meeting we had probably 4.
But you know something, I think you have to explore it. The
Oh,
reason I
yeah.
say cool,
Oh, yes,
because in theory, it's like, do you love Mother Bontempo?
yeah,
You're going to say no.
yeah.
You know, I mean, should we make voting more accessible to all town meeting members? You can't say no.
No.
It's like, you know, how would you say you don't love your mother,
Yeah,
right?
Right.
But then you say practically, how do you make it work, and how much is that going to cost
Well,
us?
that's the
well,
thing.
yeah, in fact, the title of our committee is Town Meeting Study and Improvement Committee. We don't make any recommendations until we thoroughly study it. So I got a couple of people that are looking at that in great detail, looking at other towns, what their impressions were, what the costs are, what the cost benefits are. So by the time we get to you guys, we'll have some basis for making
We
a
have-
recommendation one way or another.
The precinct captains, we have precinct captains who I think do a yeoman's job, because they're trying to collect the vote number from everybody in their precinct. And then you got a few oddballs, you know, like me, Chris Moore, up at a different table,
Yes, right,
waving,
yeah.
you know, and she's got to look and kind of look through all the crowd, and am I going yay or nay
Right,
to
yeah.
count my vote?
Yeah.
So, I mean, just something as simple as getting, you know, Aldo, 2 or 3 of us, Aldo, Chris, me, that are town meeting members, is a daunting task. I can't imagine if there were 30 or 40 people traveling, how to keep that straight. I mean, technology can do it, but we'd have to figure it out.
Yeah, so anyway, that's,
Last one.
last one is, we're also working on presentation guidelines. You know, what your view graph should look like, font styles and
Oh, cool.
all the mechanics of presentations, graphics, guidelines. And so we promulgate that to all the boards, departments, and committees who may you be using visual, including the finance committee. So we have, one thing a presenter should never do is put a text document on the screen.
No.
I mean, if it's not a bullet, a flow graph, a chart, don't waste your time, because nobody can read it anyway.
Nobody can read the 450 words you
Right,
put on
yes,
a page.
right. So those are the kinds of things we're working on.
I'll throw another question to you is, if possible, it would be wonderful to have, we do a town meeting show where we go through every article. And the objective is not to try and persuade you to go yay or nay, because by the time we do it, it's a week to go. The votes are there for most of the budget and all. But if it is possible, I'd love to have a recap, even if it was just come on down for half an hour, and let's do a recap of the pre-town meeting show and put that up so town meeting members can go and look if they want, because it'll be on YouTube and it'll be on TV.
Well, we were supposed to have this recorded. The pre-town meeting, it was arranged, the cable station requested, and it was granted to record it. And we understand there was some technical issues.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, as
it's
long as you're
gonna-
doing it,
Yeah, it is.
I'll make this show available to you, but if you can do
Oh,
it
you can
any
do a
other way.
show?
You just do a show, just a
Oh.
little mini show to say, hey, we had the pre-town meeting, here were the 4 hot topics.
Yeah. Okay,
So-
if we can squeeze it in.
Well, we were worried about 58 minutes,
Yeah, that didn't
It's
take
already
too long.
gone.
and it's gone.
All right.
Seriously, as always, thank you to our 6 loyal viewers. Get out and understand what town meeting is doing. They look at every penny. The reason there's no town in this area as strong financially as Milford is because we start with Milford people running departments, Milford people watching the money, and then people like this committee who say, yeah, we may be getting an A, but we want an A+. So get involved. Watch what they're doing. Help them. And as always, may God bless. Thank you to our 6 loyal viewers. Maybe we'll get an improvement committee and get it up to 7. May tomorrow be a better night than tonight. Thank you.
Not too long since I've been home.